manage it, eh?
Yeah.
Right, welcome back. You're watching StandPoint. And there we have Zacchaeus, who is perched on that particular tree. And people have come out in force to look out for Zacchaeus rebranded. Zacchaeus 2023. Look, Jesus, here and now. I have not cheated anybody. They have to pay me back 4 times the amount. And you know, lately with the taxation the tax issues being slapped every which way, people have been talking about Zakayo. I don't need to belabor the point. This is what Gado has drawn today. Also, we do have in the Star today, look at this. This is what has been drawn. We have the Azimio ship, which is cracking and leaking right now. And we have the handshake. As we can see, some of the Azimio operatives have been sinking inside the water, trying to cross over to the other side. And this is what we're discussing regarding the latest development in ODM and the implosion, the registration of some of the members, and the state house visit that has caused this uproar. At the end of the day, we're all saying this chalks up to party discipline. And when it comes to visiting the state house, does it really need to have the party leader know about it? When you're seeking, of course, development to go to your constituency, do you need the green lighting of your party leader? Was any money exchanged? Well, this is what Ozone seems to be actually trying to deliver here. And we have politics. This is Uhuru, who's been caught up in these headwinds as well. He says, I'm here to stay. And this, he says, even if his packs will be taken away, he's still in politics, he's not retiring. That is the former president, the fourth president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta. I'm holding court this morning with Hilary Segei, who is the senator of Bomet. Also, we have Danson Mungatana with us, who is the senator of Tana River. And we have a senator of Kisii. This is Richard Onyonka. And the question we're asking about is the president seeking to weaken the opposition. And we have a rich seam of history that we're being given about Right Honorable Ole Odinga, but Farah Maalim, even as we wind up on it, and we hear from Danson Mungatana and Hilary Segei as well. Farah, you were saying, we left at a very good question.
I was at the Serena when we were going to go for
Yes.
for the big rally, big NAC rally.
202. You are at 202.
202.
Yes.
And I was there at the signing of the agreement between LDP and the Kenya People's Coalition.
Yes.
Which I chaired, by the way. And our leader, our party leader, or our coalition leader at that time was the late Simon Yachai, who had financed the whole process. You know, a lot of money had changed hands. And at that time, the understanding was that, the private understanding was that it was going to be endorsed there as the flag bearer for this new coalition, which is going to be called NAC. But then, of course, things turned out the way they turned out. Without any consultation. It came as a surprise to everybody, to Kalonzo, to Saitoti, to Ntimama, to Kones, to myself. By the way, I was in the summit at that time. When I left the summit representing the Muslim, what they call constituents in this country, after that is when I pulled out. We pulled out completely after that announcement. And none of us, nobody discussed. Raila just waited until Kibaki was there on the podium and came and said, "Sumunajua Kibaki ndio, Senatosha ndio, bas kuisha, manane meisha." Yachai was sitting next to me. I mean, what did he say? I told him, he said exactly what I told you before. He didn't want to believe me. Because Matiangi was our executive, more or less like our
campaign manager.
Matiangi then?
Matiangi was the campaign manager, he was our executive officer, it was everything for us in the party, in the coalition. Mtu mkono ya mimi na Yachai.
Ametoka mbali.
Ametoka mbali. And he did a good job, let me tell you. A very good job. And Matangi was telling me, no, Farah, what are you talking about? I mean, there's nothing. This is clear. We trust Raila and everything else. Charles Yachai is still around. You know what I mean? Although Mzee has gone. He told me, Farah, no. I don't know where you're getting this from. I said, we've been done in, my friend. And then we were done in Mzee nikamwambia.
So this is happening on the podium while the rally is on.
Before that in Serena.
It is.
Oh, in Serena.
Yes.
Before that in Serena nikamwambia Mzee unadanganywa. Mzee alipigana. You know how Nyachai becomes when he loses his temper. No, not alipambia. Well, Farah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then basically I was like his son. And I said, okay. No big deal, we're going somewhere. Of course, the process is going to unfold. I didn't think it was going to come that fast. I thought it was going to take a bit of time. But 2 hours later...
it was done and dusted. And Kibaki Tosha.
We were sunk. And he was sitting next to me on that front row. Yes. He was sitting next to me. He said, what did he say? I told him he said exactly what I had told you he was going to say. Do. He has endorsed Kibaki for the presidency. And you are not there anywhere. I was careful, nishika mzee asianguke. Amekasirika, ameshtuka, na tukaenda na yeye. We went. And later on, of course, we had to come together and yes. I managed the whole thing, and finally I gave that statement, that very long statement, that we were going to go the full haul. Yes. And we went the full haul. Fast forward. There's a disagreement. Raila Kibaki does not hold his side of the bargain.
Yes. Of the deal.
The side of the bargain that time was that, according to the camp of Raila, he's going to be a chief minister, pending the constitutional amendment that was going to be done within 100 days.
Basically taking what Musalia has now.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, he was going to be the chief minister. And because Kibaki, somebody who loved his bottle at that time, we all know that, and he used to play golf also. So you'll be the de facto president. He was the chief minister, you'll be running the system. Which never turned out to be the case. The moment a new government was formed, of course, those guys who knew him very well, the Kretu, Kretu was there with Raila. And the rest of them, they now ring-fenced Kibaki.
The presidency.
And the presidency, and made sure that he was only going to listen to them and nobody else. To the extent when Raila was even denied entry into the State House. You see what I mean? Then, of course, the situation gets from bad to worse progressively. The very infamous, what they call constitutional change efforts, the Chunga, and you know what I mean. We go all the way. At that time, look at the late Orwa Ojode talking in a baraza in Cumberland.
Yes.
And saying that we're going to have Kalonzo Musyoka as our next president. To rope in the campus. Progressively that went on, because personally I had advocated that the first time when Kibaki Tosha was coming into the focus, that we were going to have an electoral college. I said we have 6 presidential candidates. Let these 6 presidential candidates all come with 60 delegates, each one of them. And everybody who is going to vote in that, they're going to have 360 of them. Everybody who was going to vote was going to give marks to everybody. The person you love most, you give 6 marks. The one you want, and then the last one you give 1 marks. And then let's cumulatively bring all those marks together and see who is going to win. Everybody at that time, under those circumstances, Kalonzo was, kind of a front runner.
Yes.
Because you go for the person you love most, and then the one you are most comfortable with. When you think you're not going to. Basically, it's an assumption. Saitoti was there. It was also loved very much by a substantial section of them. Kibaki was there, and all of them. But whoever was going to emerge, let him emerge. Let me just finish.
Yes, please.
And then now again, we go there, we defeat the bananas, we create the Orange Democratic Movement and everything else progressively. Raila, you got us into this mess in the first place. So you cannot actually be a candidate yourself, privately. Many of us are of that opinion. The last minute, Kalonzo goes to, Raila buys a Hammer car, the first person to buy a Hammer in this place here. There's a rally at Khadija grounds. He had already unleashed his boys, Joes and everybody else.
Kalonzo was heckled to death.
Called, completely humiliated. Thoroughly humiliated. That's why how the ODMK comes into being again.
Yes.
Then the rest of us go again into another proper election, by the way, with the delegates election from all over the country. In Kasarani, we ended up saying, okay, let's give him a last chance. Raila, let's give him a last chance. Ruto was the candidate. Musalia was the candidate. Raila was the candidate. I don't know who else was the candidate. Because Kalonzo had already left the mainstream and created his ODMK.
Yes.
So within the ODM, we again said, let's give this man an opportunity for him to leave, under the understanding that he was going to be there for 5 years. Many of us were told he's only going to be there for 5 years. Aya sawa. Na akachukua. Na ikatokea, before that there was a problem of the men in black. Where people like me believe that the party has been sold out. You see, that day, if that men in black thing did not happen, Raila was going to be out of the party by midnight, and this party would have been delivered to Ruto within the same night. And Uhuru, of course. They were together.
ODM to Ruto.
And Uhuru
yes, and Uhuru. Because it was Ababu na Mwamba.
Yeah.
And Joho, who that time was flip-flopping and basically on that side. And that whole team. And Raila was, we said, what is happening? So we, by the way, people who mapped out the men in black were myself, were Junet and Aradua. Raila had a very scanty information on that. We made sure that doesn't take place because we're going to lose our party.
So that
the
was
following morning.
It was a party coup.
Yes.
Party coup, yes.
Yeah, okay.
But kind of saved him. Kind of saved him in the long run.
That saved him, okay.
Yes. Understanding was that he had already sold. Some people told us he's already sold the party for a couple of B.
Right. Okay, Farah.
Let me finish.
Please, you have to finish because now we have Hillary and
we got back. We lost. Let me go through this history. We lost the elections. We didn't lose the election, but they were rigged out. 2013 was an absolute, outright, open rigging.
Okay.
Out. But the point I'm trying to tell you is that progressively, the party has become a tool, or rather the movement has become a tool for an individual called Raila Amolo Odinga, and he has treated it like a business, what do you call a corporate affairs. We went here for Baba while you were away. I was there as the chairman of the welcoming committee. Our idea was to get the 1 million votes in the shortest possible time, up to 2 million votes. A call for what do you call a constitutional, amendment. We were going to do serious things in the country. But what happened? Well, they had their own private handshake there, and the thing itself was sabotaged until the last minute.
Thank you, Farah.
Now the final thing that happens, fast forward again, is the handshake. Let me just finish. The final thing that happens is the handshake. So, if the movement belongs to a person like a corporate affair, then of course it's been fair from the beginning until the end. It's a family thing, progressively. But to say that I'm the only one who is going to go and negotiate on your behalf, and the content or the intent of the negotiation, content is a lawyer, and the intent of negotiation is very private to me. But you've got to swallow whatever I tell you myself, and I'll take you wherever you are. But if you don't follow, then you are a traitor. You are a sellout. But I'm not a sellout myself. You get my point? I'm not a sellout, my friend. Look, we can sit here for the whole day, and I will narrate more than 10 instances when these serious betrayals comes, where we are taken into a war, we go and fight the war, and the negotiation is done behind our back, and whatever changes hands, it changes hands, and there's a stand down again. You know that, attention, stand at ease. If you've been in there, I don't know whether you went through that kind of stuff. We're told to stand at ease now. Stand at ease, relax.
Yes. Attention and relax.
Okay, Farah.
So my point is, I'm going
relax,
to stand
relax.
Okay.
Now, when I say attention now, he's going to get you back. Now relax. Let's hear from Danson Mungatana. Just given that rich theme of history that Farah has given us and the nature of what now the opposition politics is today, it seems this is a vehicle of trading with Honorable Raila Odinga.
I'll try to be brief. First of all, generally speaking, a political party is supposed to be where we sit all of us as equals.
Stakeholders.
And we're supposed to discuss issues, agree on a position, and then go and support that position. So it is the norm. It is the norm. But I read this book called The Long Walk to Freedom by Mandela. Nelson Mandela, in that book, and it really caught me by surprise. because all along I've known him as a Democrat. But Nelson Mandela said when he was approached by the clerk to go and start the negotiations with the white people, the question that lingered in his mind was, he had very serious comrades that he had worked with for many years who were extremists. He knew that those guys would never even want to share a cup of tea with the white people.
Yes.
And worst of all, they would never want to be seen with the clerk.
Yes.
So he made the personal decision to move away and go and talk to the clerk alone, one-on-one. So then he writes a justification. He says, in some circumstances, the leader needs to take extraordinary steps so that to save the whole situation. So I understand that at some point leaders need to do that, but that should be the exception rather than the rule. But in this political scenario of the Honorable Raila Odinga, it has been the norm. You know, you just make personal decisions and then you expect everyone else to follow, which is not the way political parties should work. So I agree with the Honorable Farah Maalim that we should have consensus in terms of discussions. And what I know about the president, our current president, is that he's ahead because he listens to a team of observers. That's the norm for him. And those people who surround him and talk to him and talk to him and talk to him until he makes his decisions, you not normally see them in front. But he does a good job at listening. But we have the other side where people make decisions and then they hope other people will follow. My prayer is that going forward, because we have a few more years in politics, we will have strong establishments where people sit, discuss policies, and then they give mandate to the leadership to go ahead and do it. That's why, for me, and I'm writing a thesis on opposition politics at PhD level. And I'm saying opposition is good. This thing should be understood in the wider concept. Because once we have a formal leader there, then formal statements can be issued to give an alternative position to what the government is saying, to give alternative policies, to give alternative thoughts, which reflects the mindset of our people in this country. And that, to me, creates the stability. Because even in an atom, you need to have those forces moving up and down for the atom to remain stable. And even our country, we need to have, it cannot be one side alone. It will be unstable in the final run. So it has to, so for me, the creation of the opposition is a good thing, but it should be a formal thing, not political rallies where people go and say whatever they want to say, not rowdy funerals and that kind of thing. That doesn't run government. What runs government is formal things, moving policy in a certain direction, balancing it with whatever the other side is saying, and then giving your opinion, having your say, even if that say may not be the majority say, but having your say. Yeah. And then the other side who have the majority, they can have their way.
Let me just chime in and ask this particular question as well, because we're discussing on a broader range of issues regarding the opposition. And this is likely, as I mentioned earlier, to be a topic of discussion in the House.
Yeah.
So given now that we have an opposition that it seems now it's fractured, and there's an implosion, what sort of salient points will be raised regarding the opposition that we want as a country? And what do you likely to see as the main topic that will be floated by the Speaker? I know Speaker Farah Maalim, I think this is something that Honorable Wetangula also will be posting for as a matter of discussion. But Farah,
in terms of this issue of opposition,
what is the intent of the president?
For me, let me just, of course the intent is in the heart, so you can't really speak for the heart of a person. But for me, the discussion about having opposition, it was there before the elections. It was there before the elections. It was very much there. And you may have missed it, but I know that the president actually at that time talked about it, and we had a small discussion about it, because it was in some rally. It wasn't given a lot of coverage, but it wasn't during this campaign period. It was way back, because I remember I got very excited when he also said something about it, because we just discussed that matter, about 7 of us, when I was presenting some topic for discussion in the PhD class. So I want to say that for me, the intent of the president may be for the good of the country. I think it is good. And my take is that the president isn't going far enough. We should have a leader of opposition, both at the national, where he has a seat,
Yes.
and he is able to push policy, and at the county level,
Yes.
where the runners-up also has a seat as a member of the county assembly, a special seat,
Yes.
and he is able to push policy. Because like what Mheshimiwa Senator Alesema hapa, he said that MCAs are not able to carry out the oversight function. And that I can vouch for him. I agree with him 100%, because these people are not as strong as the governor, and they didn't contest the entire county. So they don't have really a voice, a strong voice to challenge. It's like the leader of minority trying to oversight the president. I mean, the MP was just elected in one constituency. Even if he was given the position of minority leader, he can't really oversight the president. So this is the situation we are having in the counties. We should have the runners-up to the governorship to have a special seat, so that he can also continue carrying out the real oversight and presenting alternative views, so that at the end we have a county that is functional. So for me, that whole concept, in fact, we even have it at home. You know, when you get married to our women, they're actually the active opposition in the house, whether you like it or not. And every married man knows this, that your wife will always have something, not, they toe the line, but they don't actually toe the line.
Call them.
They always have something, wanakwambia hivi, before you align them, you know, but they always have something. And it's not a bad thing, because it makes you see the different angles to issues. Sometimes it actually helps you. Sometimes the decision you say you own them, you made them, is because actually your wife had a very good input in them. And to be honest, sometimes those are hard decisions, but of course you can't come out and say it was my wife who said it. You will say it was you. But in actual fact, because she was there, she makes you a better person. She makes your decision and running the family affairs better. So the same, the governors need the runners-up. The president needs the runners-up. The people who will eventually win, it is the nation. So for me, I think the leader of opposition and that team should really think about it before you come out and say, we are opposing it.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Hillary.
Thank you. I wanted to tell Honorable Mugatana not to call them the leader of opposition from family basis, but probably the soft deputized, whatever other name. But then that is true. When you have a second person, third person giving you a different view of issues, you become better. Your decisions actually become informed, not by your own, but by additional information. But then back to the conversation. What Honorable Farah Maalim has given us is a very important history that gives us the reason and the explanation as to why we are where we are, both in terms of the opposition as the opposition, and in terms of the politics of the day, how we run them. And with that history, there are 3 things which I've picked, which I must try to unpackage. One of the things you've asked Honorable Mugatana is why this memorandum from the president, and what could be part of the debate that will come into the floor of the House. One of the things which I believe is also in the heart of the president, because actually that's the intent, could be to give a platform to the losers. When you look at the Honorable Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Martha Karua, having lost, they've got 0 platform, even to have a conversation with the locals, to tell them that I was once, or I still can say something. creating the opposition office or the leader of opposition office will give such people a platform with which they can speak to the people. Farah said that we are the young politicians, which is true. And there is nothing as bad as a politician having no platform to speak. We get this in rallies where if you are called upon to take over a program, there are leaders who are in office who must be recognized. There are those who are former leaders in office who must be recognized. And if you do not do it, it's not going to be read to be, it was a program of the leaders of the day. It is read in a very different way. So this politician, this is his or her profession. This is their lifeline. They need a platform to speak, even sometimes to non-issues, just to be felt that so-and-so is still there. The ball is still there. And that is inherent, I believe, in the politicians. And so that could be the intent of the reason of creating this particular office, because the top three, I believe, are losing out on reaching out to the Kenyans. Number two, the other issue which that also gives us is the story of the party policy. How do we run our political parties? We still have that challenge in Kenya, and we've talked about this before. Even in the House, we've also had a conversation on how then do we have party caucuses, so that by the time I'm taking the floor of the House to speak on an issue that is being shared or that is being discussed in the House, I am speaking not as an individual leader or senator from Bomet County, but on top of that, I'm speaking on behalf of the party that sponsored me to the House. Because we have agreed on a party position, we have said this is the direction that we are going to take, and everyone else has been convinced to believe on such a position taken. That is missing. We do not have that in Kenya as of now. That is why the things that the Honorable Maalim has taken us through are happening. That also speaks to the reason as to why we've talked about, I mean, when they say that we know they are being offered Kenya shillings 50 to support the government, that is demeaning a leader who's been elected by thousands and thousands of people. Because what can 50,000 do to a honorable member of parliament? Nothing. It is because there isn't a position that the rest of the leaders of, let's say, ODM can go and sit down and say, how do we keep this government under check and balance? How do we approach issues? And therefore, we would also be right to say, as the way the president said, you do not have a reason to go and ask your party leader, because in the first place, that party leader is never even asking me of a position or my view whenever certain decisions are being made the way we were told. I have that freedom, as they say, to choose to deal with this person who is the leader, who is the chairperson of a certain committee, or the president for that matter. But then, if we were to have a position or an opposition that has had serious party policy, how to approach issues, how to engage members of that political party, we will be having a reason to say, look, Debal, we had our caucus yesterday. We agreed that none of us should be able to deal with the opposition or the ruling coalition unless and until on serious issues that we have agreed and how to approach them. We don't have that. The opposite of it is on the KK. The president, as at now, I want to agree with Honorable Mukatana that the way he's leading is a completely different style. I remember when we were crafting the constitution of UDA, which is the party that formed the government with the coalition and other parties. Before we could agree on a clause, everybody in that table ought or was allowed to contribute and justify and defend his or her position. The president would throw in some clause and say, let us borrow from the previous political parties that we've been members. This is what we had. This was the intention. This is how we were unable to implement it. And these were the challenges we experienced. How do we then craft on this particular one? And we could debate for almost 2 or 3 hours on one clause, which would say, gentlemen, I do not want us to have a party that will not live beyond the party leader, because we are all human beings. I'm here today, I'm not there tomorrow. Let us build an institution that will live beyond us, the people. That is the style of leadership that has, in fact, attracted the leadership across the board to come and discuss issues, such that when they say that I am not even, because yesterday the Honorable Arama was saying that, look, it's not even the president who called us to State House. We said we have been given a mandate by our people to go and serve them for 5 years. How do we do it? There seems to be a very good approach by this government of the day on how to deal with the issues of Kenyans. Why can't we reach out? And this position of president is not for the Kenya Kwanza, it's for all of us.
Thank you.
And as I close on this particular issue, remember, it is not the business of the Kenya Kwanza government to organize the opposition. In fact, it is its business to disorganize, because it requires to run its government and deliver for the people of Kenya.
I thank you. I thank you, because I think it orients my next question on why the president is looking for this particular position.
Yeah, that is part of the politics.
Part of the politics.
Yeah, that's part of the
But
politics.
from my understanding of the way I look at things, Onyonka, don't you think maybe the president also is looking post his presidency, when he will be the actual opposition figure in parliament? Is it because, you know, they always talk about the human nature? When I wake up, I don't think about Richard Onyonka, Farah Maalib, Danson Mungatana, unless I have interest, and the interest is I want them to come to my show. Or you can't wake up on a weekend and you're thinking about Dival. You know, the human nature always think about yourself first and the concentric circle around yourself. It's not, if it's not myself, it's maybe my wife, it's maybe my children, it's maybe my mother, it's maybe my father. Do you think Honorable William Ruto will just wake up one morning and he's thinking about the opposition? Right, Honorable Raila Odinga.
Let me tell you.
If it's not for selfish interest as a human being.
Let me tell you, Senate has just answered you. I don't think it is the responsibility of President William Ruto to organize the opposition.
What I'm saying what I'm actually putting across to you is the fact that he's not to organize opposition, but he's organizing his own opposition post the 5 years or post the 10 years that he'll be in power.
That means he's a clever guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
he has projected, and he needs this office. What will I be doing after 10 good years?
Where we are today, Dibal, we have a country which has a political class. If you sit down and talk to members of this political class, how many of us understand the issues to begin with? I mean, I'll use 3 or 4 examples very, very quickly. The issue of the constitutional amendment. By now, we in the opposition, and I'm sure my senior Farah Maalim will agree with me, by now we should have come up with a position on what we need to do about these amendments. Are you with me? If need be, this is the point where we need to re-engage pertaining to what we need to do with the IBC. All right. Any person who is going to play football, don't even use the political game we are playing now. Any person who is going to play football, why did they introduce the TV? To
the VAR.
Yeah, whatever it's called.
VAR.
Yes. To see whether it's a handball or to see. So if football, they can actually bring technology to check and analyze what is happening in terms of the uncertainty of what is going on.
Of the human judgment.
Of the human judgment. Why is it that we are not able as a opposition to sit down and begin to talk with the issues that matter to Kenyans? Why are we, if we are talking about putting President Ruto to task, why are we in the opposition not talking about, yes, we talk about prices of goods in the rallies, all right? Have you heard anything being discussed about CBC? Look at what is happening about CBC. All right, you come down to the issues of taxes. Our party, if you ask me today, what is the position of ODM in terms of the taxes that Kenyans need to be taxed on? Have we come with an alternative? No. All right, now you move out to issues. Look at the subsidized fertilizers. All right, the president is laughing about it, he's happy about it, he's saying this is something that I think is going to bring results and everything. But have we bothered as an opposition to analyze when these fertilizers are given, have they arrived at our areas? Which area has received? What quantities were given? So that we can discuss it. We are not. Dibal, are you with me?
Yeah.
So what we are dealing with, yesterday, there was the meeting which was in Naivasha. All right?
Yes.
Under the...
Yes, actually it's called IBEC. The IBEC, the summit,
the
yes.
IBEC.
And you'll allow me to say something about it.
Yes,
Yeah, very
certain
important.
proposals have been brought out, and President Ruto has actually given his own input. He gave a memo as to what he wanted done, and of course, the Council of Governors has come in. The Intergovernmental Committee on the issues affecting county governments, on devolution and everything, all those ideas were given out. To me, even when we are holding these rallies, why has my party not come out just exactly the way this position was given by the government on what the president is going to do? We could then have come out and said, even when the president has said this and this and this and that, our suggestion is, yes, we agree with him on this, yes, we agree with him on this, and we agree, but the rest we don't agree with him. And the reason is this and this and that. In other words, we are not, the general feeling I have is that we are not prepared as an opposition, because everybody, I think it's because everybody expected to win the presidency and everybody expected to get the power. And now where we are is that, Ruto won the presidency, he's now running government, and we in the opposition are not actually sitting down to say, how are we going to start raising issues without being petty? How are we going to start raising issues with respect? And how are we going to start putting the president to task about issues which we believe are affecting Kenyans? And the problem is, like my leader here, Farah Malima, said, why don't we do that? It's because there is too much selfish interest in terms of positioning whatever that the party leader Raila wants to do vis-a-vis what some of us who are not the party leader of ODM can actually do. So where we are, according to me, we are just going in circles. You're being told you can't go and have a meeting with the president. We are waiting to be told what the position is going to be in terms of what the issues are. We've raised the issue about electoral injustice. This issue of electoral injustice, nobody is saying exactly what needs to be done. When Prime Minister Raila talks about it, I've not heard even Kalonzo talk about it. I've not heard Her Excellency Martha Karua talk about it. The issue about creating the opposition, of course, has come from the president himself. He's always been talking about it. I remember it was in BBI. The issues which are being introduced right now to have constitutional amendments in Parliament, we have not been called as a party to even deliberate on what happens with the ruling which was given by the Supreme Court about the very structure of our constitution. You remember that issue came up?
Yes,
and it is the president who's making these recommendations. What did the Supreme Court rule on that? So the public is not even engaged. If today you ask me, Dibal, what is the position of any of the political parties, including UDA, other than the president said they'll plant 10 million trees, what position do they have on the environment? Even with their own counties where the governors won as UDA members. So we are faced with 10 years after new constitution. I don't think we were prepared to understand what the roles would be. We accepted a presidential system, all right? Whereas we were supposed to have gone with the parliamentary system because of our structure, the socio-political cultural engagement we had. We have meetings which are being held at committee. Nobody sees what really is transacted in those committees. And yet that is where serious stuff is being discussed. And the people are selected, nominated into these committees. Doesn't matter what your experience is. Doesn't matter even what your education is. So even matters, I mean, I'll give you an example. Mheshimiwa Farah, you know I worked in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for many years.
Yes, yes.
But would you think that my party can even call me and ask me about what do I think about Western Sahara? They don't. So we are in a position where it's a work in progress. We don't know what's to be done. Everybody expects the party leader to come up with the direction on which we are going, and yet many people feel they're being left behind. And yet, we, in our mindset as politicians and Kenyans, believe that when the president has won the elections, then everything is with the president. So you run to him so that he can give you whatever he can.
So let me ask you, even as we're winding up on the party politics, Farah Maalim, for these legislators that are going to see the president, they're being de-whipped, deregistered, does going to see the president amount to a gross violation of a party constitution, if there is one? Or really...
Let me tell you something.
How will you take it to be actually a gross violation that
let me tell you,
you'll be shown off from the party?
I've been an opposition member of parliament myself for the longest. I think I'm probably the only person who has been continuously in the opposition. Because Raila was part of the government, Kalonzo was part of the government.
And me.
You were part of the government.
No.
Me,
I was in, I've always been in opposition.
Because your father was part of the government when I was there.
Yes.
I mean, these people have all been there. Whenever they went in this side, I had gone in the other side. You know what I mean? Even when the bulk of the opposition came together to be in NAC, I was in Safina and cooling my feet out there.
With
but even as the only member of parliament from Northeastern Province in a Kanu zone called Northeastern Province, I had no issues sitting with the president and talking to him. I remember there's one picture. I hope one of these days somebody from the media is going to get it and put it in the president came to Northeastern Province, and every time he comes to Northeastern Province, I was there. Because the decisions and discussions there have nothing to do with political parties.
Yes.
It has everything to do with development.
Yes.
And I was a die-hard guy. And he actually pleaded with me in front of everybody in Garissa. I gave him all the respect as the head of state. You need to give that institution the respect it deserves because of the fact that of the office. It signifies, it demonstrates our own sovereignty. You know what I mean? I mean the head of state, and the state is called Kenya. And I remember we were seeing off His Excellency Moi, President Daniel Arap Moi, in the airstrip in Garissa. And the head of state, you know how imposing authoritative he was. He was, you know, above a class above everybody else I've seen. And Wewe Farah. And he took me aside there and stood up with me, and we discussed and discussed and discussed. You understand my point? No, whatever we discussed, nobody else knows except me and him. But then I discussed a lot of issues that affected me. One of those issues was that when the head of state himself, said to Kanu, those days, for Kanu to support a motion by a member of the opposition was like,
yes,
it's impossible. That's the only time it happened. And I brought up an affirmative action motion through quota systems into parliament, and the president told the Kanu, iyo gijana, iyo mzuri, wende msaidie. And in one stroke, in 1 year, we got 550 students from the region into universities and into tertiary colleges like Kenya Medical Training College and the rest of it. When we had all our student population in the universities in Kenya, were only 65 that time, majority of them coming from upcountry where they have good facilities. But Northeastern Province used to send 1 student or 2 students into the university every year. Every year, maximum 2 students. Hitherto, before that. But the president said, and you know what? That motion was seconded by the late Intimama from Kanu, an opposition member of parliament who goes there and moves a motion, and the motion is seconded by a minister from the other side. So talking to the government on matters of development, sitting down with the president, for God's sake, is what politics is about.
Yes.
Look at the American politics, for example. Let me tell
you.
You would want to look at it. Look at the American politics as some kind of a model, because the system we have assumed right now
is the American system.
Is the American system, which does not serve us at all. It doesn't serve us at all unless we change the system or we create another hybrid again. Forget about an opposition a person coming from outside who has lost a presidential election and becoming a what do you call, opposition leader in parliament. No, there's no system. The only way it has to be done, look, in the parliamentary system, in the Westminster system, the Prime Minister has a constituency. The same way when we integrated the two ourselves, Jomo Kenyatta had a constituency called Gatundu. And Moi had a constituency called Baringo. Baringo Central. Baringo Central. Baringo Central. And Kibaki had Odaya. You see what I mean? So if we go back to the system as much as possible, and somebody runs for the presidency but at the same time runs for the constituency but fails to become a president, then he sits in parliament, then he is the opposition leader, that person. And he can prosecute the opposition, what you call agenda from parliament. Now, how do you bring somebody from outside? I know what the president is saying is good. There has to be a serious opposition in parliament.
Yes.
Somebody who is elected from a constituency who was not a party leader before cannot become the face of the opposition in parliament. But you have to change the system for him to run for a constituency, Kibera or Bondo, whatever it is, or in my case, Ladap. And then when you come in there but you lose the presidential elections, then you become the leader of the opposition with your own office, and you interrogate the government and take the government to task. You see what I mean? So those are the kind of things we should be looking at ourselves. My friend can go back to the Mwingi constituency, and if he wins, Kalonzo Musyoka,
yes.
If he wins the presidency, fine. If he doesn't win the presidency, he sits in there in the House as an opposition member of parliament.
Yes.
And basically becomes the leader of the opposition there. So that's why I was telling you, there is a philosophical construct that we got wrong from the outset. They were not looking at the intellectual perspective to everything. You look at something, you borrow from here, you borrow from there, you borrow from there. This running around of borrowing everything from everywhere else without putting a thought into it is a lawyer. When you want to talk about a piece of legislation in the US, the first question you ask is, what was the frame of the mind of the framers? What was the intent of the
drafters?
Yes. The framers. So you go back and then find out what mischief was it supposed to cure, what aspirations was it going to bring forth, because aspirations and development it was going to bring forth, and you don't deviate from that. Even the courts, when they want to give a ruling on those things, they don't look just at the letter, the literal, what do you call things, they look at what was in the minds of the people who framed this piece of legislation, the sociological aspect of the mischief it was supposed to cure, or the aspirations it was supposed to bring forth.
Thank you. Right. Hold on, Farah.
Can I just finish that bit? Now, because we don't do that.
Just a moment.
Let me just, because we don't do that.
You wanted to...
Point of information to Honorable Farah is that this is the reason why you find that opposition members of parliament, after the elections, they actually feel like orphans. Essentially, in that place, you
I was just finishing. Let me just finish that.
Hillary, I wanted to chime in as well, just so that you can finish. I think to your point. Just a moment, Farah.
Yeah. What I wanted to contribute to his contribution on this topic is the question you had asked about what is the fate of the members who are now being told you will be expelled from the party. I have seen a very untidy situation.
Okay, let him finish. I think then once he finishes, then you can.
We were in Mombasa in a retreat. The president is an old friend of mine. The president came into politics after me. And we're in the same party together as ODM. I'm talking about the current president. and I was passing there, the president is there, and we waved to one another, and I walked straight, the security tried to stop me. He said, "Wacha yo mzee wa kazi, kuja Farah." And we talked, and we laughed. You can't tell me that I cannot go. Who are you to tell me that I cannot sit with the president, or sit with Mungatana, or sit with you, or sit with a member of another opposition party? No.
All right.
The fact of the matter is the substance. Give credit to the late Jaramogi. Whenever we came into parliament, there was a budget. There was only one budget. Do you know we got together as a party and interrogated every aspect of that budget ourselves? And he shared that with him for the longest. Do we have that now?
No.
Do you have an opposition that sits together?
Okay, let's leave it at that.
No.
Thank you. Downson Mungatana, then we hear from... First of all, I wanted to ask this particular... given that scenario that we have right now, and the president is also now up to, climbing that ladder of having a supermajority, as it is right now, and you're talking about presidential and parliamentary system of governance. For me, I wanted just to ask a simple question. We are caught up in this morass with our constitution. You say that we borrow from every facet of the world, and we try and cobble up something called the Constitution that now we at pains to get the rough and the smooth of it at the end of the day, which is now the presidential system. Don't you think now he's heading to be a very powerful, absolute, powerful president of this country? If you have a super majority, everything will be steamrolled. We have a weaker opposition. That is just the question I wanted to just ask this morning. Where are we headed with such kind of a presidency? And how, moving forward, now that you have the numerical strength, will you try and tame the president if he's got a super majority?
Okay, first of all, I wanted to go on record that for me, what the people who are talking about the prime minister system are not telling you is that you will not elect your prime minister.
Yes, he comes from the party.
He comes from the party of the majority. He
yes.
is the one who is going to wield executive power, and I didn't vote for him. So for me, presidential system stays. And I was in the Naivasha committee that made that deal. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I think I must give the vote to the guy who is going to rule me for the next 5 years. So when we say that be the case, but we need the person who came next to him, because he represents or she represents a big, different opinion, should sit. We are not saying anything different. Mm-hmm. We are just making the system better. We don't have to go back to the prime minister system. Having said that, I'd like to say that having a super majority in the House doesn't make you an all-powerful president. If the opposition is organized and it is doing its work, politicians are just like me and you. They are normal people. They are not superhumans. And the president is not a superhuman.
But Danson,
even
before
if,
even move on with the point, we have an organized opposition, and you're lacking in numbers.
No, let me finish my point. No, let me finish my point.
Let him finish.
Let me finish my point. I want to repeat again. The six, what they were called the six bearded sisters, who were led by Anyona, those days, there were only 6 people doing opposition work in the Kenya parliament. And that time we had an all-powerful president in Kano called President Moi. And they still made a difference. I'm just saying that, even Uganda, by the way, if you read the book Mustard Seed by President Museveni, yes. They also started only 6 people and they brought a change, although theirs was a military thing. I want to repeat that if the opposition does its thing and the president is there, even if he has supermajority, even if you are just 10 of you and you are organized, that president will listen to you. What I'm afraid of is that the opposition is not organized right now. The opposition is speaking at different languages, and they are not being able to put issues on the front. And once people are disorganized, then you take advantage. So what I'm trying to say, and I'll say it again, that if the opposition plays its role, as a nation we are safe. If the opposition doesn't play its role as a nation, if we slide down to dictatorship, it is them to blame, because they are supposed to give the opposing opinions on every issue. I have not heard them say anything substantial since we started this whatever. They are just on, we have not, we didn't lose the election, that is not the thing they should be talking about. They should be talking about, has William Ruto tackle the drought effectively? What is we are just reading in the press here that the junior secondary school classes are not there, facilities are not working, even our own MPs are complaining. What is the opposition talking about, So even if you are 10 of you, even if you are 5 of you, even if you are 20 of you, you can do very good work if you are determined and you're together like this. So for me, I think the opposition has been a total letdown. They have focused on politics rather than policy.
Thank you.
And they should change so that they can help this country to grow.
Right. But I want to inform something that you just said before it goes
briefly,
far.
just a
very
minute.
Briefly. I'm not telling you that you go back to the pure parliamentary system. We had a hybrid. You voted for Moi, but he also got a vote from a constituency. He also came and sat in Parliament as a member of Parliament for Baringo Central.
Yes.
Are you getting my point?
Yeah.
So you will still have the chance to vote for the president you want. You voted for Kibaki, you voted for Moi, you didn't vote for Kenyatta because it was unopposed. But we shifted from that very fast. By 1964, we had this hybrid system in which the president, whoever is going to become a president in this country, had to have a constituency. Now, if we are going to have that, even the vice president, deputy president coming from a constituency, which of course Kalonzo Musyoka was as a deputy, as a vice president of Kibaki, and everybody was in that sense, we could still do a hybrid or a mixture of a parliamentary and a presidential system, retaining the system we had last time. You see what I mean? And still have somebody sitting in parliament. If Raila was going to be forced to run in Kibra, he would still be in parliament today.
Thank you, Farah.
Martha would have had her sitting in Gichogo.
Thank you. Hillary.
What I wanted to say was it's something to do with the
disciplining of
discipline of members. Yes. And there's a very untidy situation in the ODM party, which is going to become very, you know, it's not a good thing. What has happened is that, and these are my colleagues, I don't know whether Mungatani have seen, the person complaining is a senator. The person is complaining to, who is the Secretary General of the party, is a senator. And the person complained of having been deemed to have now gone against the party position is a senator. We would like to see how that will play, because a demand letter has been done, a response has been done, and a rejoinder has also come out. Now, our political party, the Political Parties Act, doesn't, we have litigated this and have fully participated in one of the cases where the Honorable Aisha Jumwa was expelled by the party, ODM, when she actually supported the presidency, the president now, then of course Deputy President William, and the position that he was taking in his party in Bunge that time. Yet she was a commissioner in the Parliamentary Service Commission, having been nominated by the political party called ODM. We have litigated that in court, and the court has said it's not, seeing the president speaking or supporting a position is not working against the party position. That one is something that the courts have made a decision on. That's why Aisha Jumwa lived her time in Bunge together with the position she was holding for the whole whole. But I do not see this one.
But wasn't that really flying in the face of a Political Parties Act? I think
Section 14. Actually, Section 14
of the deeming.
Yeah, lists around 5, 6, around I think 5 reasons and grounds upon which one can lose membership to a political party. And among them now is when you are deemed to have supported the other party and therefore by extension worked against the position of your party. What the colleagues who are being accused now of having supported the party does not amount to what we call deeming. It doesn't.
So what is deeming?
When you are deemed to have done something is, on the one hand, the perception
when you make a statement or
is no. It's not even a statement, because in this case, Aisha Jumwa didn't make even a statement. She went ahead and supported a position the way other members have. But we are saying the law does not envisage deeming to be like, by associating myself with Dibal, I have joined you. No.
But you say politics is all about perception at the end of the day.
No.
Yeah.
For technically and legally, a person cannot be removed from a party unless that person disowns his party.
Disowns the party.
Disowns his party.
Yes. And disowning the party.
Disowning the party is saying that I'm not in this party. I'm
yes.
in another party.
Disowning the party could be one of those things that you do, but by conduct, you wouldn't tell me I'm deemed to have.
This is very interesting, because even in this epic of time, we have what they call, just a moment, Farah, just a moment. Yeah, I'll put up something, then you'll walk away. You have what we call the quiet quitting.
Yes.
You don't have to have declared from you, I'm actually quitting this, but it's quiet quitting. You never appear for the meetings.
Punishment comes only after the next election. In such a situation, the other party has nothing they can do.
All right. And if you have failed to attend, the constitution, a number of constitutions of the parties would say, if a meeting is convened, you don't attend once, twice, thrice, then there would be a basis for the party to say we are subjecting you to a process.
Thank you.
But feigning that you're deemed merely because I have been seen to associate with the other party doesn't fly.
Right. Thank you.
With individuals.
All right. Yes.
I need to take a short break. Hillary, when you circle back, of course, we also look at Kenya Kwanza, because we have some party affiliates who feel that they're being
also
betrayed by UDA. We have only ANC. All right. We take a short break.
ANC
When you circle
and
back,
4K.
ANC and 4K. So it seems the three musketeers of the Kenya Kwanza. All right. We take a short break.
KTN News. Get the whole